Holy moly, I almost forgot my own drum break. How you doing, everybody? Welcome to the Monday Night live stream with me, your truly, Jim Toscano, hanging out. The Filling in the Grooves live stream. Sometimes it's topics about the book. It kind of started out that it was usually topics from the book. And, it's kind of morphed into a bunch of other topics and sometimes guests and sometimes technology things and sometimes just hanging and talking to you. I did a tuning one at one time where I actually was changing heads and tuning drums. This live stream has been going on for over a year now, since back in January of 2020. So that's super fun for me that I'm still plugging away at this and trying to keep it going and doing it. I do want to find my little chat window real quick and get that up on the screen so that I can have a little fun with you guys. And I have a few things I want to talk about tonight. One of which is kind of a continuation of the live stream from last week, an update on the Shuffle Evolution. Where's my little restream chat window? Oh man, I lost it. It's on one of the screens hiding. I'm going to click it and see if it shows up. There it is. It just showed up. Sometimes I got to click it. I got to click it from across the room. All right, so in just a minute I'll do that. I do have news tonight about some upcoming live streams. I have a lot of notes written down tonight. I'm really excited to share a bunch of stuff with you guys for sure. Let me just say hello real quick to see who's hanging in here. Let me see. Should I put it on the screen? Yeah, I'll put it on the screen. Live scene with chat on the screen. Yeah, there we go. That doesn't really help me because I can't see it, so I look at my own little chat window. Lucia, what's happening? Good to see you tonight. Vincent LaRuva, he wrote Groovy, and I combined his last name with that. Vincent LaRussa in the house, who's going to be a guest on a very soon upcoming live stream, which, sorry, I was distracted. I was reading the next thing. But, yes, Let's Boogie Bob Sears. And, cool. Yeah, it's a super fun tune. I mean, that's that tune that I was playing at the opening, which I almost blew my own drum break, is Shuffling Along from Filling in the Grooves with Yanko Valdez on bass and Jason Green on guitar. And we wrote and tracked that in the same day in the studio, and it was super fun. Just coming up with some ideas, some things to play for the book. So I do notice I have to light with this newer camera a little bit differently. Sound was okay, John Gill says. Good to hear. John Gill's going to be in an upcoming live stream as well. So I might as well go through the schedule real quick of some upcoming live streams. And then once I do that, then I'm going to give you a little bit more news, and then we'll get into some of the topic. I'm going to bounce around a little bit tonight. It's going to be, real loose. I'm trying to get it like this. This is what I'm trying to do. 1 or 2 Mondays a month are going to be drum set topics, whether the book or things that I'm working on or things that I'm looking to share with you guys. And then another night is going to be a guest night. 1 or 2 nights a month will be a guest night. But among those guest nights will be this Groove Master series that I started. The first one was the Tony Thompson with my special guest and good friend Vincent LaRussa playing bass with me. So we did some rhythm section stuff, kind of highlighting some grooves that Tony Thompson played on some records. The next one we're doing is James Gadsden of Bill Withers fame and Marvin Gaye. He actually also played with Diana Ross, which was kind of surprising, just like Tony Thompson did, not Chester Thompson. And so, Vince and I will be doing another bass drum groove breakdown on James Gadsden, who's a great drummer, to me, sort of underrated in a way that he's not one of the Neil Pearts and the Mike Portnoys that people talk about. He is a groove player, and which I am very inspired by and love analyzing what's going on inside of grooves. Pat Ross in the house. What's up, brother? And so, we have the James Gadsden one coming up pretty soon. And then So that'll be on the 15th of March. But next week, I have John Gill, Janine Canino Fox, and Bobby Angелetta coming in to do to talk about O for Drum's Sake and sort of an educator spotlight, and also Janine who has O for Drum's Sake on Instagram, and she does a podcast. She is really promoting the art and the community of drumming through her enthusiasm, which I think is amazing. So I wanted to have those guys on as a guest because they always have me on as a guest, and I really enjoy that community that we have with those guys and gals, and so we're going to do that together on March 8th, and then, as I said, James Gadsden on the 15th, and then the following week will be Filling in the Grooves. Then on the 29th of March, none other than Dom Famularo, Italian Foods, will be in here, and how we will be talking about really talking about the man, Dom Famularo, and talking about, his contribution, his huge contribution to the world of drumming. And then we go into April, and I have the legendary David Garibaldi with me on April 5th. And I have commitments from a few other guys that I'm not going to mention yet because we don't have the dates nailed down yet, but we're going to have a really nice time. Also, in late April, I'm doing a vintage drum and drum enthusiast night with David Clive and Pat Ross. So about collectors and vintage drums. And so, Dave has the Gretsch Museum. He's a good friend of mine for years and years and years. I studied percussion with him when I was in college, and he's just a great dear friend of mine. And Pat Ross also is a drum collector and drum enthusiast, as well as an educator and a fine drummer himself, and a student of mine and a friend of mine. So Pat Ross will be in there with Dave Clive, and those two guys are buds. And so they're going to be talking about, vintage drums and some of their collections. So I think that'll be super interesting. And I've never done a vintage drum night, and I myself am not a collector. Many people find that a little puzzling, that I don't really, not that I don't care. I mean, look at my instrument. I love this instrument, but and I'm very into my cymbals. All of my Sabians, I handpick exactly what I need for everything. I have a lot of ride cymbals, but I'm not a collector. I was never a collector. I don't collect drums at all, really. I have what I feel is functional. And so, sometimes people are puzzled by that. Not that I don't have an enthusiasm for it. I think it's great, but I leave that to other guys, and they do it way better than I do. And so I'm really excited about that. And Dave, both Pat and Dave have some really interesting stuff in their collections. And I played in the past in a big band, the Vince Giordano Big Band, and Vince Giordano has an amazing collection of old drums that I always found really interesting and really fascinating. And I actually gave Vince, I'm getting confused between Vincent and Vince, some things that I had in my house that were old vintage stuff, and I gave it to him because I really didn't have any use for it. So again, not that I'm not enthusiastic, but I'm super excited about having those guys share it. So cool. So that's kind of the upcoming schedule, which I think is going to be jam-packed and super fun. And there's going to be more and more guests going on. And once a month, I will do that Groove Master series and analyze, one of our drum heroes and some of the grooves. And I'm trying to do some of the less obvious people. I mean, underdogs to me, and that's the way I'm kind of looking at it. So also, I just want to mention that PBS has a special on Tower of Power, 50 Years of Funk and Soul. If you can find that on PBS, it's on their schedule. It airs at different times in different states, but do check that out. They did an incredible job putting that together. My good buddy Dave Garibaldi was telling me about that, and how they have all these different camera angles. The sound is amazing. So I've not seen it in my area yet, but I jotted that down to share with everybody. And I think that, you should definitely look for that. And those of you who are Tower of Power fans, and even if it's somebody young here that doesn't know about Tower of Power, look it up because there's some amazing stuff. All right, awesome. So I think that's it on the schedule news. And it's something else I wanted to mention, because I'm going to be talking about shuffles a little bit tonight again, is books like Ted Reed and Modern Reading Text in 4/4, the Belson book, which Bob, you're in here, right? Bob's working on that a little bit. Those books are great for using for raw material when you're working on getting your shuffle game together. And I'm going to give an example of that tonight. I don't have the book open at the moment, but I think I have it in my head, kind of, the idea anyway. I can share that with you. One of the ways that you can incorporate your reading into your shuffle work. So I think that's super fun. Okay, so that's the news. And then another thing I wanted to mention quickly is that over the weekend, I was involved with helping, and really I didn't do anything. I was just there as a tech person and as an enthusiast. But I was with Ross Amoroso on Saturday. He did this great drum history masterclass. And that was, an event by invitation. And he invited some of my students, which was really lovely of him. And it was Daniel Glass and Kelly Ray Tubbs talking drum history. I caught only the first half of it because I had to teach. But I saw Daniel's presentation, which I've seen before. If you don't know about Daniel Glass's stuff, check out the Century Project. He has a lot of interesting stuff. He has books on early rhythm and blues drumming that he did with one with Zorro. Really worth checking out. So check out Daniel Glass's stuff, and we thank Ross for putting that together and sharing that with some of my students, which I thought was awesome. Lucia was in there, and really, really great. And so thank you, Daniel. Thank you, Kelly Ray Tubbs, and hopefully they'll be guesting in the future on my show. Daniel is also a southpaw like myself, and he's a great person, super talented drummer, and Kelly Ray, man, coming from the female point of view and a great historian as well. So what was that, Lucia? So Ross put an amazing event together. It was awesome. I know, it was very good. Northrop Vintage Drum Museum in Oneonta, New York. Thank you, John Gill, for sharing that. I would love to check that out. And if you're ever in Indianapolis for PASIC, go to the Percussive Arts Museum, because there's an incredible collection there. Vincent's been with me there, Vincent LaRussa, and John Schneider, one of my other longtime students. I've taken those guys, to PASIC a few years, and the Percussive Arts Museum is amazing. There's a great collection of vintage drums. I mean, also world percussion, all kinds of great stuff. And they had Neil Peart's kit in there. They have an original Louis Bellson kit. There's a Gene Krupa kit in there. There's a Buddy Rich kit in there. There's all this amazing stuff. So check out the Percussive Arts Museum. I should slow down so I don't keep blah, blah, blah. So, yeah, the dotted eighth note rhythms and syncopation, excellent for shuffles. Yes, that, and what I was going to bring up is using just syncopation and the syncopation section of Modern Reading Text, which I wish I had it up on the screen because I'm going to talk about it, but using just syncopation and using swing interpretation to do that. And so that's the first thing I'm just going to kind of bring up in my little shuffle dissertation. So I'm going to start. I'll do a little bit of that stuff right now. And then let me see what my live screen, split screen. Let's see if we can see this. Yes, we can. Cool. I got to move to the other monitor. So, with the shuffle evolution that, those of you who follow me know that I've been working on this for a very long time. And as many of my things go, they get longer and longer and longer, and I keep adding stuff. But that's the joy of it for me. That's the fun that I have with this stuff. Putting putting together, these lessons and breakdowns, and it's the way my mind works. I get a little bit analytical into some groove construction kind of stuff and learning it and trying to get an authentic feel. I've been fortunate to have to play a lot of shuffles in my working life, and which wasn't always the case. I hated shuffles at one time, and what I found so interesting is Jeff Porcaro, on one of his interviews, he was doing like a clinic at a school, and he was talking about how when he was a kid he hated shuffles, and then he became like one of the masters of that. So sometimes it's the monster that frightens you, the skill set that you don't have together, that seems scary, and you just don't want to approach it. You want to put it away, is the thing that you wind up working on the most, hopefully. Work on the things that are difficult. Work on the things that you're not so great at. That's what I try to spend when I do get time to practice these days, which has been a little bit thin for me. Not as it usually has been. It's been a little rough with all the technology stuff, but I try to work on things that give me a hard time. So that's my advice anyway. But so I was just thinking about, if you were to set up one of the shuffle patterns and any of the hand patterns, like the ghosting patterns, whatever. So let's say you were working on the in-between, the trip ghost notes. And you could either put in a 2 and 4 or a 1 and or just a 3 backbeat to get the halftime shuffle. But if you were to work on, let's say, modern reading text in 4/4, the first page, page 4, and I'm not doing it verbatim, I'm just doing the concept. But you could work on something such as this. Right, where it's just sparse eighth notes and a lot of rests and a few quarter notes. And it just works on all the different positions that you could fit in there from a bass drum standpoint. And so, that's a way that you could kind of start putting that stuff together, and then, of course, put in the 2 and 4 and go back over the same exercises. I wish I had kept it open. I put it away. Let me see. Is that thing still open over there? Nope. Yeah, I closed it. It's not on the screen. But so, and then, if you go to the 2 and 4 and you shuffle, right? So you're just working on just syncopation patterns. 1, 2, and 4, and 1, and 2, 3, 4, and 1, 2, and 3, and 4, and 1. So, the kind of exercises where you're really just sitting there, and if you weren't doing swing interpretation, they would all sound like 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, right? And then we're swinging it, we're putting it onto a triplet grid. 1 and 2 and 3, 4, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, right? So it's that interpretation, and then putting it on the bass drum, and you could start working on, filling in all the different spaces where a bass drum could potentially land. And something I want to mention too is, there's no, man, like I find a lot of students feel this urgency of like, oh man, I got to get it. It's like, I gotta get this. I gotta work on it. And it's sort of like, relax. Enjoy the process. Like, if there's one bass drum note that's giving you trouble, let's say it's going a 1, right? Or lit 1. Just getting that down. I would say, whatever tempo you're working at, put on your click. And just keep working that one position, or if it's like, or every bar. right? And if it's that tempo's not working for you, slow it down. And if the ghost notes aren't happening and you're still trying to get that bass drum note, take out the ghost notes. And also recognize where the notes are lining up in the pattern. So a lot of the bass drum notes, like if you think of Rosanna and Fool in the Rain, grooves like that, the bass drum patterns are lining up with the hi-hat notes. I mean, in different syncopated spots, but they're lining up with those bass drum notes. Like they're not landing in really weird, wacky places. They're lining up on the grid, on that grid, right? So like the Rosanna groove has that Bo Diddley bass drum pattern. There's that amazing video that everybody should check out of Picaro breaking it down. But he's playing sort of the Bo Diddley thing underneath the shuffle, right? So he's playing essentially not at the very top. There's not a lot of ghosting in the top of the tune, but he's playing essentially this ghosting pattern. And every once in a while, he does sneak in that one that I was talking about last week, and then he's playing that Bo Diddley pattern. So that's landing on the grid. And so, what I did in the shuffle evolution is I took each one of the bass drum notes and just made an exercise out of it. So if you're having trouble with the lit of 2, just work on that one and getting it, lined up with that hi-hat hit. Okay, so, and then like Fool in the Rain 2 has that similar lining up with the hi-hat notes. Right, so again, find those spots that give you trouble and work those. Don't try to do the whole groove at once. Like for me, it's not a, like, hey, just get the hand pattern and throw in the bass drum and you'll be fine. There's finding clarity on some of those notes and finding ways to really, get that to lay on the grid really well is really, really super important. So, by the way, I don't know. I'm not a podcast guy, or never was a podcast guy in the past. And as if it's new, right? I guess everybody now has a podcast because of COVID, everybody needed a voice and a different way to express themselves. But some people that I started discovering recently have podcasts have been doing it for quite some time. And I'm going to tell you about a couple podcasts that I found are really enjoyable and unexpected to me, and then some that obviously we should be listening to. So, for one, Breakfast with Vinnie Calhoun's podcast is really, really fun, and he gets you thinking. That's one of the things I like about Vinnie Calhoun's mind. He has a very analytical mind, and I saw him speak a couple of years back at NAMM. And Dom did the Sessions panel, Dom Famularo. If you don't know about the Sessions panel, look that up on YouTube and follow that. Make sure you follow it. Watch all the interviews. Amazing interviews. But he brought together Vinnie Calhoun and Steve Vai together, Zappa alumni, on the same stage at the same time, talking, reminiscing. It was incredible. And I love listening to Vinnie's mind and how it works. Besides a player, just as a thinker, he's a really incredible thinker. And so his podcast, Breakfast with Vinnie, is really, really super fun, which I started recently listening to, like in the past couple of months. And Also, I will mention that Jane Goodall, who is an anthropologist who we know lived with chimpanzees in the wild when she was in her 20s, she has a podcast that's incredible. So Jane Goodall, it's called the Jane Goodall Hopecast. And I found that because I like Dax Shepard. I think he's really funny. So I was listening to Dax his podcast, which goes way back. He's been doing it for a long time, and he had Jane Goodall on as a guest. And that's how I found out about that. And so there's a lot of stuff, man, to listen to. And Daniel Glass has a really incredible podcast, which I think is one of my favorites. There's a lot of stuff out there for drummers, but listen to Daniel's podcast. Just look on iTunes under podcast. You'll find all of these guys. Oh, and one other kind of surprising one is Alec Baldwin interviewed Mick Fleetwood, and although he didn't, Vince said he was disappointed that he didn't dive into the drumming as much, but it was really the story of Fleetwood Mac, and I think it's really interesting to listen to that podcast. So anyway, my brain is all over the place tonight, but I did want to mention the podcast because I think it's interesting and, it's something that I've been getting into. All right, so one other thing that I wanted to touch on from last time in the Shuffle Evolution. Oh, so, and this is just going to be a brief demonstration of a couple of ideas, but check this out. So last week I was talking about kind of some hi-hat placements, and typically, where do we put the hi-hat when we're playing sort of blues shuffles? Well, we'll tend to do a lot of 2 and 4. Right, so there, or even all 4 beats. And you'll notice on that I'm going chick, right? And so I was thinking about, some alternate spots to put to work on your hi-hat notes, right? So last time we were talking about kind of playing all the upbeats, which is kind of, if you think about it, like the double bass shuffles, right? Which are usually, quicker. And we will do a night of some double bass shuffles. But, you move that foot over to the hi-hat. So that's kind of an alternate spot, something to work on, something to check out. Now, the way I kind of use that, and it's a weird thing, and of course, you have to have the right type of music for this, but let me just see. Do I have a foot cam set up here? Yeah, it's a little dark down there. I think it's okay, though. So what if we were to play the hi-hat on downbeats and work on a couple different positions? So we'll answer with the kick drum as a triplet. So maybe like... Right, so that kind of thing is kind of interesting and different, I think. I'll do it from an overhead. I don't know if you can see the feet that well, but so anyway, so so that's kind of an interesting use of it, and I've done that, and sort of working on that as an ostinato, but as a shuffle. So, and I've also played that, by the way. So watch, I'll take it as a shuffle, and then I'm going to straighten it out. It'll get it'll be a shift, right, of groove. So if we were going like, right? So so I played paradiddles over it just to put it into 4. But there's a lot of ways you can use that little ostinato, which is kind of interesting. And I have some other things. I'm not doing the ostinato thing tonight, as over in that land. Just talking about it more as a shuffle idea. But and then the other thing you could do is, instead of playing the hi-hat on, we'll put the hi-hat in the middle. So now the bass drum is on the 1, and now we're going to get this. The bass drum is actually going to double your shuffling hand, and the hi-hat's going to be on the trips. So you basically get this: 1 triplet, 2 triplet, 3 triplet, 4 triplet. Catching a lot of air, trying to get this so you can hear it better. And you have to be careful, because it's kind of funny, my feet are falling apart a little bit, but you don't want to wind up in a samba. Right, so you have to keep it very even. So 1. Right, so there's that position. And that's kind of a fun way just to work on different positions of the foot within this framework. So that is a consideration, something to play with. And again, I kind of renamed, I'm just going to go back to the top for a second, an analysis and exploration of the shuffle. So we're exploring different ideas. I'm always exploring different ideas and trying to see what I can come up with, for these kind of things. And, some of these, like that one, the one that has the hi-hat on the downbeats, you're not playing that in a in a blues shuffle, right? I mean, that's not. Let me switch cams. Hold on 1 second. You're not playing that in a blues type of shuffle, right? I mean, there's no way you're going to be playing like a classic blues thing and going. They'll throw you off the bandstand, right? Right, that's not happening. So that one's a little bit of a heavier, kind of feel. So that just reminded me of something. If you're playing this kind of shuffle, whether it's a halftime or we'll say double time shuffle, an easy fill to throw in there is you still play the shuffle, but just move your hands across the toms. So I was just thinking about this earlier, and this isn't on my shuffles page in my book. So you won't find this on the shuffling along page in filling in the grooves, but it's kind of a fun idea. So if you were going like and it works really well. You're keeping the backbeat. And it really depends where you put it. It has to be sparing. I don't think it should be a really super long fill. So I'm still playing sort of shuffles. I'm breaking them up a little bit. So it's super fun, get inspired, come up with some fun things that you enjoy doing in this sort of shuffle filling thought process that I'm going through. So okay, so the next thing from this that I want to talk about is sort of the alternative, I'll call them, shuffles. And it's in the back of the shuffle evolution. And there's a lot of stuff in here, but it's some of the ones that I feel like I didn't really talk about recently. Last time I talked about, for sure, all of the ghost note positions, and or a lot of the ghost note positions, and the sneaky triplet and all that good stuff, which I really love. Which, by the way, the sneaky triplet, let me see if that's up on here, is in Pretzel Logic. Oh, wait a minute. I have Pretzel Logic open. Wait, let me see this. Let me see if I can actually hit it. Oh, I'm on the wrong screen. 1 second. I'm going to get this. I did my own transcription of Pretzel Logic right here by Steely Dan. And the sneaky triplet right there, right here, right here, right here, right here. So the sneaky triplet idea, and basically sometimes he's doubling just a hi-hat like that. But what I think is fun about it is, I do it as kind of in the swing shuffles, like that kind of thing. So in here, it was like a really medium kind of tempo, right? So he sort of sprinkles it in like So I kind of like that it exists in there, and I wanted to bring that up because Pretzel Logic is now in the shuffle evolution, by the way. So like the third line. And he's kind of doing doubling the hi-hat, so yeah, different approach to it, right? And that takes some discipline, and getting that into the backbeat. I'm much more comfortable not playing the hi-hat over that, going to a quarter note or the shuffle. You can hear it's much cleaner when I do it that way. But it shows up in there, so I thought that was worth mentioning in Pretzel Logic. And it also shows up, I think, a little bit in Black Friday, which is going to be in the Shuffle Evolution as well. And we went through a little bit of, sort of these shuffles last time. And I'm not doing the Rosanna breakdown, but I wanted to talk about these couple of shuffles. And which, one could argue that's not a shuffle. So I'll say suggesting a shuffle. So one thing that I like to do, and I definitely took this from these couple of bands, XTC, and I put a little comparison here. So you have XTC's tune, the Disappointed, and let me see, what else did I put on this page? Everybody Wants to Rule the World. Dave Maddox on drums for the XTC thing, and then Everybody Wants to Rule the World. Manny Elias on drums, and then Breakdown. Stan Lynch playing drums with Tom Petty. I know I've talked about these a little bit before, but I think they're worth revisiting. And so you can kind of a fun thing to do. It doesn't have to be the groove of the tune. Like, it could be the groove from the whole tune, like the XTC one. or you could use those as accents. But that's like a quarter note triplet. I'm still going to call it a shuffle, even though you'll call it like a triplet groove, but it feels shuffly. And even though it's not technically, I'm putting it in the evolution of this because I think it comes from that. It's a derivative. So that kind of broken up triplet thing right? And then Everybody Wants to Rule the World does it in the reverse of that. Which I think is another really cool and interesting groove. So I thought those two were worth noting. And as I said before, maybe it could just be some accents that you do in your own playing. So if you were playing right, so I think it's an interesting way to kind of approach that, or even as sort of a fill, if you're playing right, so sort of stealing from that and borrowing from that. Right, so I went to the other one. Or it could even be right? Or right, but you're still in that quarter note kind of feel. So anyway, super fun. So so that's some ideas that I jotted down. And then the other thing that I thought was cool in sort of the broken shuffles, not broken in like the groove is broken. Those aren't, they groove hard. I feel like he could have played Everybody Wants to Rule the World, right? But it just wouldn't have that space that really breathes, right? And then this Stan Lynch thing that's on Breakdown, which of course I've mentioned this in the past that he stole from Ringo Starr, right? Right, in my life, and then so he swung it. So that's got that shuffle thing. It's a derivative. It was taken from the shuffle thing. And then later on, he does play more of a shuffle like in the chorus. Right? So he's got that kind of thing going on. So those are kind of some fun little things that happen in the tune. I think that's, oh, the bridge, right? The scooping in a little air. It's not like a big opening. It's not that. I think it's more of a, right? Lucia would know that. So those are sort of some of the broken shuffles. And then, by the way, an interesting thing I started messing around with today was like, what if you were going, well, we'll leave this for a displacement night, but what if you're going, no, the other one. So keep that quarter note triplet pulse happening and then jump onto that and play straight time. That's a topic that'll come up. Okay, that was not a proper demonstration of that, but you'll see where that's going. It'll be super fun. And then the other thing that one of my students asked me about last week was like, what about the odd time shuffles? Because I don't know if that I actually dug into them, but something to play around with is, what if you were playing a shuffle in 5, right? So let's say it was a halftime shuffle, or let's say it was 2 and 4. We had to add that 5th beat. How do we make it smooth without sounding too obvious? So I don't know. I mean, we could. I think I would do it in the hands. I don't know, something like that. And then the one that I wrote out, the one example that I wrote out is I put it in 7. And so sort of thinking, again, like that one you could have thought of 3-4-2-4. This one you could think of 4-4-3-4. So if we did a halftime shuffle. So I'm thinking 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. That kind of thing. So I'm really just subdividing and thinking of shorter, or 3-4 shuffle. Right? So that could be another thing to just work on, just to sort of expand your vocabulary and your, the feel of these things. So I love these shuffles. I'm still working on these things. I mean, it's a matter of, it's not something that you ever stop working on, I don't think. I think it's always going to be a work in progress. I should check in with the chat real quick because I've been going for a long time. Everybody probably fell asleep. And, it's super fun to explore this with you guys. I did want to throw it out there that this could be something that if you guys have ideas that you want in the shuffle evolution, we could address those things. Some of the other grooves, like I'm putting in Red Zone Killer from Seal. I made a list. I got a whole bunch of Stevie Ray Vaughan stuff that's going to go in there. So we spent some time on the Texas Shuffle. So let me check in with this chat real quick because I neglected to hit you guys, and I feel bad when I do that. I know I get hey, a new subscriber. I know I get all caught up in this stuff, and then I forget about you guys. So my apologies. I must apologize real quick. Let's see where we were. Back here, yes, Pat, for sure. Jeff Picaro, indeed. Be afraid, be very afraid. If you sound good all the time in your practice room, you're not working on difficult material. That's right. That is the truth. Work on the stuff that makes you sound terrible because that's where you're going to grow, right? I mean, man, like when you go to throw something down and it just doesn't come out, which happens from time to time, right? Even in this show, it's something that I go, man, I better go work on that again. And it doesn't mean you have to work on really difficult stuff. Sometimes it's a matter of working on one thing and putting in the time until it's in your muscle memory and it's memorized and it feels great. Like for instance, working on your eighth notes versus triplets, right? Just that 2 against 3. Get that feeling so good that it doesn't ever have a question mark on it. And then reverse that, right? It's that relationship of triplets to eighth notes, which sometimes is elusive for people, working on that kind of stuff. I think Jane did teach the chimps to drum, Don. That's true. Rocco Deserto, Scott Firestone, what's up, brother? How you doing, man? Scott Firestone, man. We go way back, way back. We were just talking about Dave Clive tonight because he's going to guest on a vintage drum thing with Pat Ross, and Scott Firestone and I were together in band at Kingsburg Community College, and we worked on the percussion ensemble together, and which was super fun, and the big band, and just hanging and talking music. And Scott had his bands and my bands at the time, so great to see you in here. I love you, man. Lucia, what is you saying? Nice. Cool. Awesome. Cool. Very nice. Touche, Don. The sink. Yeah, we got to talk about that. Steve Balguyen. Super cool. Thank you, Steve. Thanks for hanging with us, man. I've been enjoying having you in here. So I really super am appreciative of that. And thanks for hanging. John Gill, a few fills. How about a few fills to add to the shuffle? So I do have that shuffle page in my fill book. And there's a bunch of them. I'll give you one just real quick since I missed it before. But single drag tap is one that I like, and that opens that shuffle tune. I just missed it before, but right. So that little feel, it's one way to play it. With the toms or one tom, or just snare, or so super fun ways to use it, right? Matt Patella, what's up, brother? Matt Patella in here tonight. Matt Patella is another educator and does a bunch of live streaming, and he's done some really great stuff with Mike Clark, who I've known not as long as Matt, for sure. Mike Clark, of course, of Headhunters, Herbie Hancock fame, and many other things, and has a really cool jazz book that came out, I think, a year ago, that I can't remember the name of, but Matt in the house. Don O'Keefe. All right, man. So let's I think I'm going to get this puppy wrapped up in a second here. So upcoming live streams, there's going to be some fun stuff coming up soon, including, all the special guests that I mentioned today. And next week will be the O for Drum's Sake crew, including John Gill, Bobby Angeletta. I believe that's next week. And Janine Canino Fox and myself. And we'll be talking drum education and drum enthusiasm and spreading the joy, which I think is what it's really comes down to. And yeah, So there's going to be some good stuff coming up. And of course, you know, Dom Famularo. We're going to have David Garibaldi and others to come. And myself and Vincent LaRussa breaking down some of the drumming of James Gadson, which I think is going to be super fun. So just to review that little schedule real quick. Remember the book, Filling in the Grooves? Check it out. There's all kinds of fills in here. There's like 800 fills. I will see you guys on the next one. I'll see you guys Thursday for the Hand Technique Workshop, which is, of course, virtual. And we'll be right here doing that on Thursday night at 7 p.m. as always. And yeah, I was going to talk about some concerts that we've seen growing up and been inspired by, but we didn't get to that tonight. So another time. All right. Thanks for hanging, everybody. I'll see you later. Enjoy your week, and I'll see you on the next one. And boop, let me just hit right now. We're going to roll the titles. All right, guys. Take care.